Thank you. Thank you very much. Just another addendum to that. Whereas it's saying there's being carbon neutral is only the start, we actually set this up to show a little bit about sort of what we would call boutique bulk wine blending. So we're going to go from sustainability in, but it was more about showcasing some of the stuff to break the norm. And again, we speak from an international background, particularly Andrew, but we're basing a lot of it on the UK consumer trends. So what we're going to do, as a rule, we'll take you through the flights here today. We'll give you a little bit of background. From my side, it's more about positioning in the marketplace. So some of the wines that we work collaboratively on everything. So the Wine Fusion and Lanchester are the same thing, as you saw on that previous graphic. So we're part of the same company, and Andrew's actually the managing director of Lanchester Wines now as well. So he's got quite a lot on his plate at the moment, so we're just moving all this through. So what we're going to do then is we'll take you through the flight, and again, just to be clear, all these wines are packed at our carbon neutral facility, so there is a link to the title at the start. But it's more about showcasing something that's a bit different, a bit more interesting, trying to break that mindset again from the UK perspective, so please don't think I'm sort of talking about your own domestic markets. It's about sort of saying what we're doing, how we're going about it, if that's okay. About right, perfect. So, just for clarity, we shall start. If you want to start.
Very happy to start. So we've got a selection of wines here, as Mark said, that are produced through the bulk system and filled at Greencroft Bottling, our sister company. They all are responses to a particular brief that might not necessarily be the type of brief that you would usually use bulk wine to fulfill. So we've brought along a few wines today to show the more diverse aspects of what we do with bulk sourcing and filling in the UK. The first wine is called Moloko Bay Sauvignon Blanc 2021. It's a coastal region wine from South Africa, and it's a direct response to what's happened with the global, the New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc supply situation, which, as I'm sure you all know, has been a bit of a rocky road this year. Well, not so much a rocky road, a road that's kind of disappeared off a cliff. So we've been looking to, obviously, Sauvignon Blanc is a kind of soft brand in its own right, especially in the UK, and people associate it with a certain flavour profile, a certain experience. So what we've done here is something that probably a lot of people here may have done. We've sourced and blended a Sauvignon Blanc that is not attempting to be a Kiwi lookalike, because of course it's impossible to do that because the wine style is completely distinct and unique, but it does have some of that zest and vigour and some of that levity that you get from that style of wine. It's been received, and it's no coincidence, of course, as well, that it has more than a nod to New Zealand in the way in which it's presented on the label. Our experience in the trade is that it's been received very warmly, and that people seem to be more open to new wines and new styles of wine, or rather alternative wines, than we might have expected before this current period where we've got all these global shipping issues, which are a massive issue at the moment for us all. So this wine is our response to the New Zealand issue. And it's Mark, if you want to fill us in on this one.
Yeah, so exactly as Andrew said, we saw the issues coming across. Us as a business, because of how we work the lines, we've got a fantastic DO pickup. So our bottling facility is absolutely on point to do Kiwi Sauvignon because of the way we treat it and the DO and gas management. So it's a big part of what we did, hopefully do again. And what's happened with that, as we all knew, the jungle drums came out, poor vintage, everything else. So we were quite quick with the market. And again, I reiterate, this is UK, so I don't want to sort of jump on anyone else's bandwagon. We're quite quick to get it to market, and thank heavens, it's been received very, very well. Although, as Andrew said, we're not for one moment saying it is a Kiwi Sauvignon, but it has filled that point across a lot of the on-trade in the UK, a lot of special independent retail. So, yeah, we're fairly content with it.
I don't know whether I think everyone just tastes it for themselves, and you don't need me to give all that sort of
any questions,
spiel.
Please ask, but
it's very it's got nice spritz. We've taken the CO2 up to the level that you would associate with Kiwi Sauvignon on this wine, so it's around about 1,000 parts per million, which is more than we would normally put on a wine of this style. But
so what we'll do with the tasting, guys, conscious of time and everything, we'll go, unless we see a hand up or something, we'll pick up as best we can. So we'll move through. So you okay with that?
Yeah, fine.
Fabulous.
Brilliant. So we're moving now from Lanchester Wines over to two wines from the Wine Fusion. There's going to be a bit of an overlap with the presentation I'm going to do after this, the round table around e-commerce. These are both wines that were produced for e-commerce specifically in private label. The first is called a Vitalita, and it's a Pulian Falangina, brought to the UK in bulk and bottled, obviously, at Greencroft. It was a bit of a departure for our client, Virgin Wines, because obviously they've got massive choice of Italian wine bottled in Italy. But we found a wine, actually, at this show a couple of years ago, that the buyers fell in love with, and we've been doing it ever since. It's a wine that's in a lot of Virgin's recruitment cases. So it's the first thing that you see when you join Virgin Wines. It's in the first case that you get. So this is also a wine that we will be featuring in our Lanchester Wines portfolio for the wider trade, because we think it's not really a correct winemaking term, but we think it's very smashable, if you know what I mean.
It's a fabulous term.
We're all into things that are smashable here. In a responsible drinking way.
Say responsibly so.
The third wine has been made for us through a company called Fuse in Australia. Fuse is an operation that buys in bulk parcels and finesses them with higher end bulk parcels, so that it's ameliorizing, in bettering a blend with the addition of some high quality components. It's Mount Benson region Pinot Gris 2021 from Australia. Mount Benson being one of the limestone coast regions that comprise that area, and it's pretty much at the top end of the wines that we white wines that we've been bringing over from Australia. It's this liquid in this bottle is $2.50 per litre. So we've produced Pinot Grigio from Australia in quite large amounts for a number of years, and what we wanted to produce here was a wine that spoke of quality and elegance and refinement, and it was a project, a collaboration between Fuse and the Virgin Wines buyers to arrive at this style. It's part of a suite of products that they sell called Tall Gum, and there are sub-regional, regional, and more generic wines within that range, but they underpin the offer at Virgin Wines in Australia. And now for something completely different.
Indeed. So part of our, for those of you before we were talking about sustainability, one of the things we like to do is an ethical audit, make sure that we're working with partners that are like-minded with regards to their sustainability practices. One of them, we came out here, we were over in Argentina with a great company called Tierra de Huepe, Leo, who's actually here today. And we went to do a tasting, and as all good winemakers do, we specified X amount of wines, and we had about 150 at the end when we got there. So we sat down and we started tasting, and it was looking at the classics, which actually we'll move on to in a moment, like high-altitude Malbecs, the more common things that we would think to bring into the UK market. And Leo popped this in, which is an Alfonso, which is the varietal. And I'm glad some of you are nodding, because I honestly didn't know that. So what we thought is, we tasted it, loved it. Hopefully you'll get off it. It's very light. I mean, it was almost in my head, sort of almost a chilled, sort of Tarango-y, sort of light fruit driven wine. And then we decided to have a bit of fun. So we were talking about before, I know this is about boutique, but we're talking about innovation in packaging and having a bit of fun and bring it in. What we've done with this here is we've created this little chap called Alfonso the Grape. And it's a play on words. It's quite cute. But what we do, there's 6 different labels. And in each case, there's 6 different labels. So it's same juice, same thing. So it's designed more for specialist independent retail, perhaps more higher end on trade. But it was a bit of fun. You know, we're in a position where we can now start having a bit of fun with bulk wine. It doesn't have to be this linear monolith of wine, as you've seen with Andrew and some of the stuff we're doing. So it's a good wine. It's commercially exceptionally well positioned. It's easy drink. It's been received in the UK market very well. We forget we're in wine because we love it, but it was a bit of fun as well. So I hope you enjoy it. And we should move seamlessly on.
This is the next wine is probably one of the more eclectic things we've done ever, part of a set of wines. We created a set of 6 Romanian wines bottled in the UK for the online retailer Beer 52, who have launched a wine club, not surprisingly called Wine 52. And this was the first set of wines that they offered under that program. They're now offering wines sourced via, source bottled, all sorts of different countries and stuff. But this was probably the most. It's interesting from various perspectives because all of the wines in this set of 6, you have one of them here. I mean, it smacks of boutique, garage east design. Some of the designs in the set of 6 are very similar to craft beer in terms of their aesthetic. They're quite surreal, quite arty. This is a wine of a blend of Novash, Negru de Dragăsani, and Cabernet Sauvignon. We're delighted we actually brought this to Greencroft because our director of quality had never taken in any Novac or Negru de Dragăsani into his plant before and was very excited about it. Made by a winery called Vinate, who did not have experience of bulk before this. It was brought to the UK as part of a set of 3 in a multi-pot, 5,000 and 10,000 and 10,000. So this is about as intricate as the bulk shipping and sourcing and branding model gets for us. It also went out with an 80-page magazine with original photography, original prose that was done by Beer 52, all around these bulk wines, which is a really interesting thing because they were all sourced through this bulk system, but all of the producers were very delighted to be associated with these wines and did not see it at all as a threat to their bottled business. And so, yeah, man, that's Cicoria, it's called. It's spelt C-O Carly. My colleague Stelian Campion back in London is Romanian, and okay. Oh, okay, you're Romanian. Excellent. Well, it really does help to have a Romanian on your staff to do Moldova, yes. Well, what I didn't realise was that there's a region in Romania called Moldova, which isn't Moldova. How confusing is that? So so there we go. So, well, thank you for pronouncing that because it really did help.
Just another question, I will speak loudly. How did the clients in the UK receive a wine with these rather uncommon grape varieties like Novak and Negru de Dragăsani, which nobody knows in the UK?
Well, it's an interesting point because the craft beer movement, the clients of the craft beer movement are, I think, very open to new flavours and new tastes and new ideas. So as a set of wines, there was only one classic variety, 2 classic varieties in any of the wines. There was a bit of Cabernet in this and a bit of Merlot in one of the others. All the others were indigenous varieties. And they were very well received, actually, extremely well received. And I think this also ties in to what COVID has done in terms of consumer taste. I think people have discovered creative aspects to themselves and a sense of adventure that they might not have realised they had. You know, because when everything locks down and your life becomes all of a sudden quite constricted, and people have learnt how to cook, people have been buying wine by the case and trying new things. People have been brewing in their garage. I mean, there's been an outpouring of creativity on the back of this, and that has actually filtered through to a lot of the wines that we're producing now.
No, just to echo that, I mean, one of the parts of our family businesses that you might have seen in the previous, we're actually part of the family. We've created a craft brewery. So there's a lot of synergy with regards to taste. And to echo what Andrew said, we've started to see the acceptance now, front-of-mind acceptance, with people buying a mixed case and thinking, all right, I'll be a bit simple now, but I wouldn't have bought a Viognier, say, but now they're having it. And we really start to see in the UK an appetite for difference, which really dovetails into what we've been doing for many years.
Yeah,
thankfully.
And like I said before, if you add to that the fact that we've got so much wine stuck on quays and stuck in Valencia and going on a detour to Panama or going on holiday somewhere at the moment, that it's just as well that the public is getting a renewed sense of adventure, because it means that we're not going to have people going, I can't have this particular wine, I'm not going to have anything. People are sidestepping into different things with quite a lot of verve and enthusiasm, which is great.
So, yeah, totally. And now I'm going to talk about a Malbec. So going back onto the traditional front. So moving away from that, again, this is from our friend Leo in Argentina. The wine you have here, we called it High Side. There was a distinct motion and movement and process in America. In the UK, with Malbec, it has ascended into this lofty super varietal state where people are buying it, whether French, Argentinian, Chilean, wherever. Malbec is one of these. So we wanted a bit of a point of difference on it. So we worked very closely with the winemaker, and we wanted to work on something, a bit of point of difference in the marketplace, whilst also enjoying all the benefits of being able to move it commercially in bulk format. So it's single vineyard, high altitude Malbec. It's one of the wines that we've had more success with than we'd sort of thought. There was a definite replan and reordering with our friends down at Tierra del Huerpe. The wine is, look, you know, I'd love to get all really, really winey on it. It's a bloody good wine. It's well priced in the market. It's consistent. We talked about it earlier, and I'm pleased that I don't want to offend anybody's brilliant wine sort of credentials here, but smashable, smashback ability. You know, we have a tendency in the wine market to start thinking that everybody likes what we like because we've worked in it for 20, 30 years. You know, we have to take a step back and actually think, hold on, what does the consumer want here? So although there is a massive movement for funkier stuff, there is also an element where we have to connect with the consumer again. And whether that is, dare I say, a bit of RS or a little bit spritz of CO2, I don't know. But we're very proud of this wine. It comes through. We work very hard on the packaging, which, again, it's something Andrew's talking about. He's a past master at it. But, again, all these wines need to be able to, you know, you're seeing a huge movement in the UK with, like, high-end independent retail merchants, like really funky guys that are wanting difference. But it's also got to have that aesthetic appeal. So, yeah, that's where we were with High Side. So I hope you're enjoying that. We'll move on. This is quite quick, actually. I quite like this. It's like Dusseldorf. We'll move on to our last wine that we've done here. This is one of the first bulk projects we did, and it was a brief from a retailer in the UK. Going back onto that, you know, sweeter wine, slightly more fruit-driven. We created a wine here, and I did help blend this, but yeah, both old vine, Merlot and Shiraz with some Zinfandel, so two old vines blended up. It's a big, punchy, fruity, lovely wine. We have fantastic reviews on this. It's one of the first ones. You haven't got a bottle, silly me. On the back, it's actually got our carbon statement, which is what we were talking about before. You know, we were talking about how do we get it to a consumer, how we do. We've actually started to work on our own brands. This is our own brand. We're starting to work with a bit of passive messaging on the back. You know, we're almost on occasion, we're taking away the tasting notes, really, on some occasions, because we're asking the question, who really, really reads a tasting note these days? And we're putting more about sustainability and what we're doing for the future of the wine industry. So, that's kind of us, really, on...
Yeah. I mean, it shows a few aspects of our wine businesses and the different areas that we're working in, and how we're also harnessing bulk in ways to... in ways that, well, I mean, when I started in this business years ago, I can't remember when, I couldn't have imagined shipping a tank of you know, Mount Benson Pinot Gris to the UK. Actually, shipping two. It seemed as an industry, we've got this amazing history in the UK of wine being brought from all the best vineyards in the world in barrels and being offloaded on the quays of places like Bristol and London, and the great bottlings that were done by people like Avery's, which still sell in auction for loads of money. And then we've gone through a period of time where bulk and filling in the UK has become a kind of a dirty word. And now we seem to have come full circle back into a period where we can produce very vinously credible, responsive and great value wines within a model that is now profoundly environmentally sustainable and smart. So, obviously Mark and I are biased because we work in it, and we're all biased because we're at this show, but I think that we're... this is an exciting time for this industry, and it's great to see so many winemakers with unusual things and unusual ideas or new ideas about wine styling and all of that are just coming to the fore all of the time. It feels like we are at just the beginning.
Very much so.
Even though it feels after a few days in Amsterdam that we're kind of at the end. But, well, thank you very much. That's our tasting.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Oh, that's even better. No questions. Fabulous. Nearly. I was nearly off. Please say it's for Andrew.
My question is more of a technical question. I'm trying to understand better the bulk wine world. What kind of processes go through once you guys get the bulk wine there? I'm talking about like just the processes just before bottling. I work with oak tannins, so I just want to understand that.
Okay. So you mean in terms of
offload through to
we attempt as soft touch a regime on these wines as possible. Greencroft is set up for bringing in wines that are bottle ready. So we can't adjust sugar at Greencroft. We can't blend together at Greencroft. We can adjust sulfur. We can manage gas. We can correct wine faults. We can filter. Obviously, we don't want to correct wine faults because that's really not what we want to be doing, is damage limitation. None of these have had that, thankfully. It's a very rare event these days. But what we do is we have to get the wine to the UK safely. So, cross-flow filtration. Our standard protocol at the UK end is 0.65 microns for reds and 0.45 for whites, and we can go up to 1 micron, but honestly we find that there's not really a massive advantage in doing that. No. It doesn't really give us a product that's any better in the end.
No.
There's an awful lot we could say about wine preparation and wine filtration. Is there any particular area of it that you're interested in?
It's actually I work with oak extracts. It's not chips, like oak, like freeze dried oak extracts, like essential oils from oak. Right? It's really like a gram of oak extracts. You add that to 100 liters. The doses are like 1 to 3 to 4 grams per hectoliter. And these works with like antioxidant. It's like 82% polyphenols in there. So, I'm trying to understand because my role is to advise clients pre-bottling procedures on blending and pre-bottling. So that's why I'm asking like what kind of in the case of bulk wines, because I work mainly with wineries. But in the case of bulk wines, how does that happen in case of a blend happening in the UK, and then you just want to give that little less touch?
There is no blending happening in the UK.
Okay.
It can be done in theory. There are ways it can be done. But to give you an example, if you wanted to, I believe it's the case that if you wanted to put in a sugar addition into a wine in the UK, the sugar has to come from the same country that the wine has come from.
Correct.
Also, we have to be very careful with in our facility with having adjusting tanks of wine in a way that could compromise other tanks of wine in the building. Mm-hmm. So the short answer to the question is there's very little wine finishing done at the bottling end in the UK. It's all done in the country of origin, and that's why we've got all these different protocols around blending samples and pre-shipment samples, and we have FOSS analysis done at Greencroft of all of the samples that come in subsequent to each other, so that the wine has a kind of fingerprint all the way through to the end.
Yeah, I was going to say it's basically all about the prep. It's about the brief. So when everything's done. So very, very, very rarely of the hundreds of millions of litres we do, very rarely is ever a tank rejected when it turns up, because of the preparation that we've done either with the client and the pre-ships, or if it's one of our blends.
Also, distance plays a part, because with Romania, I mean, we went to great lengths to try and educate these winemakers about what needed to happen to these wines to get them to the UK safely. But in the end, I was like, well, it's not actually going to take that long to get them here anyway. So as long as they are sterile and correct, if there's anything that needs to be done in terms of a final polishing up with like a lenticular filtration at the UK end, we can do it at our end. I just want to get the wines here in as pure a form as I can. So you wouldn't do that with a wine from Argentina, because anything could happen.
No, quite.
That's not a slight on the Argentinians, it's just the distance.
It sounded like one, didn't it?
Sorry about that.
And we don't tend to do sterile wines, just as an FYI. They're more passion. And Any other questions? Oh.
Hello?
Oh, no.
No.
Sorry, you say?
Hi, first of all, thank you very much for the fine introduction. It's been excellent. You have touched upon the subject of packaging and labeling, so I would be just curious, what are the labeling requirements in the UK market when it comes to carbon footprint? Pardon my ignorance, because I only work with EU markets, so...
So what's the legal requirement for your sustainability credentials?
Carbon footprint.
Carbon footprint, but sustainability
There is no legal guidance
no regulations.
around it. I think as an industry we have an issue, which is people don't associate wine with carbon. Also, a lot of people don't associate wine with being unfair. So fair trade wine has an issue sometimes. People think, oh yeah, bananas can be unfair, coffee can be unfair, chocolate can be unfair, but wine, why is that unfair? And I think that we haven't got the messaging fully right around sustainability yet, because people don't assume that the wine is not sustainable in the first place, and we've tried we've used phrases like carbon neutral, and you think, and you look at that and you go, okay, what does that mean to most people?
Not a lot.
And we've put powered by wind turbines on it, and people look at it and go, well, it's a bottle of wine, what power does it need? So that's an area that we need to do some serious work on, because...
Yes. Oh, sorry.
No.
We're trying to correct a problem that they don't know they have. So, we're sort of saying, oh, look at this, aren't we great? And they're thinking, well, I'm not really sure either way. It's an interesting thing. And until it becomes statutory, as in everything like taxes and everything else, that's when people tend to start paying attention to it.
Thank you.
If anyone has some ideas about how we can better improve the messaging around sustainability in wine, we'd love to hear it. Because
very much so.
We do spend a lot of time thinking about it, and we've never had the eureka moment.
No.
We hope maybe it can happen here.
Yep, definitely.
Hopefully. Okay.
Cool. Any other questions? No. Cool.